First responders, thank you for all that you do. I'm Garrett Martin of the Alberta First Responder Mortgage Program, a program I put together myself. After spending 8.5 years in law enforcement, I got my mortgage broker's license, and now I'm a proud sponsor of the Alberta First Responder Association and doing mortgages for first responders. No matter where you are in Canada, reach out. We're talking exclusive rate discounts, cashback offers, and guidance from someone who's been in your boots. I know the demands of the job, and I know how to make homeownership easier. Whether you're buying, renewing, or refinancing, I'll compare top lenders from across Canada to save you money. So visit garrettmartinmortgages.com or text me at 403-915-1025 and let's get to work for you. Thank you for your service.
Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. My name is Nikki Cluche, and I will be your host. As a former correctional officer in Alberta for almost 2 decades and the founder of Blue Line Fitness Testing, which provides law enforcement fitness testing and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go. Welcome back, guys. Oh my God. Today I have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 badass female first responders on the show. And guess what? They come to us all the way from Saskatchewan. Today, I am joined by Whitney Beug, Hailey Erickson, Laura McGuire, and Shannon Gordon. Every single one of them coming to us from a different job, a different agency, a different location. But what they all have in common is that they are all members of the Saskatchewan Women in Policing organization. And they're going to talk to us about it today. We had a couple shows ago, we had Sarah Marsheldon White, who is from the Alberta Women in Public Safety. This is the Saskatchewan version, but we actually poached from you guys. I think you guys were the OGs, and then we just pulled from you, which I think is super cool. So we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to give a better intro for each of you. So Whitney Beug is a detective constable with Regina Police. She's been with them for 6 years, and she is the president of the Saskatchewan Women in Policing organization. Hailey Erickson is a special constable with the Saskatoon Police. She's been with them for 5 years. Laura McGuire is with the RCMP as a shift supervisor at the Battleford Detachment. She's been with the RCMP for 18 years. And Shannon Gordon is coming up on 25 years on August 1st, and she is currently a sergeant with Regina Police. So welcome, ladies. How are we today?
Good. I'm excited to be here and be on your show, Nikki.
So pumped. Yes, so pumped to have you guys. I literally just reached out on LinkedIn and was like, hi, this is what I do. Do you want to be on my podcast? And you all bravely said, sure, okay, I'll talk to this girl I've never met in my entire life, and I'll tell her about my story. So I appreciate you. Again, as I said before we started recording, I am cognizant of the time and energy it takes out of everybody's busy days. So thank you for carving out the time to be on the show. And so let's jump right into it. I want to know, because all 4 of you come totally different places, different roles, different levels of experience, different things like this. What brought you to this career? What drew you into this first responder law enforcement role? And kind of what's your day-to-day look like? So I'm gonna start with Whitney. So Whitney, tell me what brought you to Regina Police?
Well, I think I actually have like such an interesting experience because my background is in business of administration. So after high school, I went to university at the U of R here, and that was kind of at the guidance of my parents, who did not want me to be a police officer. They said, hey, go take these classes, and then I took a year of schooling, and you know what, I wasn't really enjoying it, and my mom made the suggestion, why don't you get on with the provincial government? So I went and worked at SaskPower for about 13 years, which is our electrical company. Here in Saskatchewan. And from there, they paid for all of my schooling, which was amazing. I've had a ton of opportunities where I kind of worked up the corporate ladder. During that time, in that 13 years, I had 2 kids, and I was sitting at my desk one day and I was like, I don't think I can do this for the next 35 years. And SaskPower was really good to me. I had a great job. I had tons of opportunities, but policing, something that I always wanted to do. We only get one life to live. So, and I have a super supportive husband. So I decided to put my application in, and I applied with the Regina Police Service. At the time, my husband was an RCMP officer. So it was kind of that balance, that he was out in a smaller detachment outside Regina. But I applied with Regina. I went through the process. The first time I went through, I got deferred for a 6-month deferral. And I think they might have looked at me and was like, like, why is this girl making this switch from, this kind of corporate job, working in HR? I was getting paid very well. It was a great experience. And so I think it was almost them like testing me to be like, how bad does she really want this? So I got the deferral, and I never stopped. I reapplied, and then I got hired on in 2020, which, as we all know, was the year of COVID. So I went to college in January, and then the world shut down in March. And I was like they stopped police college, and I was like, oh my God, I just left this corporate job, and now I'm sitting here and I don't know what's going to happen. But they kind of made alternate arrangements, and they pushed us through college. And 5 weeks later, it was, here's your badge and get out on the street. And you know what? I've never looked back. I truly enjoy this career. I'm so happy working with the Regina Police Service, or really for that matter, is probably any service. I think it's the job in itself. So I started like any other officer, you start as patrol. So I worked there for I guess it was about 4.5 years. And then I got on with an investigative unit for criminal investigations, where we did kind of a larger set investigations that patrol officers couldn't maybe complete, so they kind of pass it off. And then in January, I started a new position where I work in an integrated unit with RCMP, and it's for human trafficking and counter exploitation. So it's a brand new unit. It was established maybe less than a year ago. It's a total of 6 people in the unit, and I'm super excited to kind of take it on and shape it to what it needs to be. And I think that there's a high demand for this, and so it's been exciting.
I absolutely love your story because there's 2 things that I love about it. I mean, all of it, but the 2 big things are the deferral. So they do test you, and I get asked this all the time. Why is the recruiting process so challenging? Why is it meant to be like this? Yes, it's meant to be like this. If you can't last the recruiting process, you can't do this job. So yes, it's meant to be tough. Yes, they are testing you. If you think they're testing you, yes, they are, because they want to see, do you have the guts? Do you have the resiliency? Do you have the drive? Do you have the determination to actually stick it through? Or are you going to fold at the first, oh, boo-hoo, I got deferred moment, right? So I love that. I absolutely love that. I think the other part of it is, how old were you when you applied?
I think when I went through college, I was 32.
See, so I get asked this all the time. Hey, I'm turning 40 in August. Do you think they'll take me? Yes, because you're coming in and you're bringing a skill set that they don't have right now. So you moving into this new role with this integrated unit, I bet you're using a heck of a lot of those skills that you gained when you were working in Saskatchewan Power, with organization, with team building, with leadership, with management. So bringing that skill set in, it's not always about, can you be a law enforcement officer? Can you be a police officer? Can you go out there and shoot? Can you fight? And can you do it's about, can you actually deal with people? Because that's what our role is dealing with people. It's not going out there to be the bad guy in the uniform, right? And upholding the law. It's about going out there and dealing with people and meeting them on their worst day, at their worst moment, and then still trying to come to some kind of a positive resolution at the end of that day where you both go home safe. So I think that is a phenomenal story. Believe me, I started my business right in COVID. Same thing. We did our first day of testing 2 weeks before the world shut down, and then the world shut down, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? So I totally know the navigation of that. And one quick question. You said you did 5 weeks of training?
No, so we got through halfway. So
okay.
The full college term is 20 weeks. We got through to the 10-week course, and then they kind of shut it down for a week. And then after that, they condensed it and got us the basic, or that whatever training we needed in order to get on the street. They did that within 5 weeks and then sent us out. So we were
Got you.
early, I guess.
Yeah, but then the added challenge of like, holy crap, that was super condensed, which is condensed anyways into 20 weeks. And now get out there and see what you can do with this super condensed training. Wow. Phenomenal. And this new integrated unit sounds really interesting. I'm going to come back to it because I want to talk a little bit about it because I think this is the kind of the new thing that's coming out across most police agencies is this human trafficking, exploitation, and stuff like that. So I'd love to kind of dive into that. But I'm going to jump over to Laura. So Laura, RCMP, Battleford, you've been with them for 18 years. Tell me about your journey.
So I always wanted to be a police officer, and right from high school, I was aiming to serve my country in some respect. So I joined the military, the primary reserve when I was in high school. I was 16. I did my basic training as part of a co-op program in Ontario. So I went to the armories every day instead of going to high school, and then that got me my basic training and a bit more training. And then I could go either into trade training, which would have been infantry, or I went to work in a medical office because I started having some medical issues, and working in an office environment was something I could do, but I still wanted to be a police officer. So I was working in the military. I worked at doing security at a casino in Niagara Falls, at a hospital in Niagara Falls. So like busy places. It was fantastic at the casino. Some really good training, really good people, retired police officers, retired military, kind of got my foot in the door that way. And then I applied to the RCMP right at about the same time that I was getting medically discharged from the military. So I did want to make that my career as well, but I have lupus. So if you're not deployable, you're not employable. And with my medical condition, I couldn't be sent overseas. So I was no longer good for the military. So I wasn't sure if I would be able to get into the RCMP with this. So my recruiting process took even longer. Not that I got a deferral. So I wrote the exam as soon as I could. I think I turned 19. I wrote the exam. But then they sent me to see a cardiac specialist. Then they sent me to see a rheumatologist. So it was 6 months in between. Let our doctor look at it and decide if we want to push you forward. Go see another doctor, then go see another doctor. So when I got the phone call that I was going to depot within 2 weeks, I couldn't believe it. Like, you don't get much back then. You didn't get much notice. I don't know what it's like now for recruits, but yeah, so I found out I was going, and off I went to depot when I was 21 and graduated when I was 22.
Wow. And so, silly me, I was assuming that you were from Saskatchewan and that you were just RCMP back in Saskatchewan, but no, you're obviously from Ontario.
Ontario, yeah.
And so, was your first detachment in Saskatchewan? Like, have they sent you there and then you've just been there for the rest of your career?
No, absolutely not. My first posting was Halifax Detachment in Nova Scotia. Yeah, Peggy's Cove was part of my detachment area. I could drive by Peggy's Cove anytime I wanted. Fantastic. I love the East Coast. I play the bagpipes. I've always loved that culture. So going east was a dream. I was the only one in my troop who got to go east. So it was pretty fantastic. But also because I'm on a medical category with the RCMP, I have to go to a big center where there's access to medical care. So I'll never get to go to a 2 3 year posting in the north. Might be able to do a short relief stint, but I'll never be posted there. So I wanted to go home to Ontario after about 5 years. I did general duty and some traffic services. I worked integrated with the Halifax Regional Police for their traffic. I've always had a passion for traffic, and not just, oh, they're speeding, oh, this and that. It's what else can you find in that car? I've always been interested in that kind of stuff. I'm always digging. I like intelligence. I like making links, and I did that through traffic. So I got posted back to Ontario into the protective section within VIP in Newmarket or Toronto North Detachment. And there I mainly worked in counter surveillance. I wasn't doing bodyguarding, but I was doing the intelligence aspect of VIP work. Then an opportunity came up in 2014 to go to INSET, the Integrated National Security Enforcement Team in Toronto, which is kind of our counterterrorism. We don't call it counterterrorism, but national security, because it encompasses so much: threats to the prime minister, threats to important people, that kind of thing, as well as extremism and that kind of stuff. So I took a secondment there right at the rise of ISIS, worked a couple major files there, got a little tired of that, took a transfer to intelligence, and I loved that. I was running human sources, managing projects, doing that kind of stuff. Then I got promoted back to INSET, the national security section. And then Again, I got tired of that. That's when people were coming back from ISIS, back from the Middle East, but also the rise of the right-wing extremism. So I worked a few neo-Nazi accelerationist files. And then I transferred to what we call transnational serious organized crime. They have serious organized crime all across Canada. Ours just happened to be transnational because we were in Toronto. So I worked a bit of organized crime, and then I needed a change in my life. Wanted to see more of the country. I'm in the RCMP. Why not? I applied to go teach at Depot. So I taught for a year and a half at our training academy here in Regina. I had enough of that within a year and a half. I missed operational policing. I missed policing and mentoring people. I found teaching cadets, teaching is different from mentoring, and I'm better suited to a space of mentoring and developing people that already have a working knowledge than nothing. That's just me personally. Some people are meant to be teachers, and I'm not. So I took a transfer to Battleford's detachment as a corporal, lateral transfer, and now I'm a shift supervisor, relearning to do general duty policing after having been federal policing plainclothes for 12 years and have been out of it. So I've had to relearn a lot.
Wow. Like, okay, so again, for my listeners, like these are all the cool things you can do in these careers, because people always say, "Oh, I don't want to be an RCMP. I don't want to go work in a small town. I don't want to go work a rural detachment." You know, we used to, I'll say we used to call, because it's right, GRC for French Gendarme Royal Canadian, and we'd be like, "Oh, gravel road cops." Yeah, gravel road cops, right?
Yeah.
And so like I will say from corrections, we used to say that. We used to call you yellow pads. Oh, yellow pads coming in the back door. Like, when RCMP would show up.
The
But
Queen's Cowboys, the King's Cowboys.
totally, totally. And so like that's what people have stuck in their head, is that it's just small town detachment policing. But like, oh my God, look at all those opportunities that you had, and
Yeah.
like just different areas that like you don't even realize exist within the career. So again, if it's something you're interested in, guys, like yes, you're gonna have to put your time in. You are gonna have to put your time in at patrol. Like that's just you got to learn somewhere, but those opportunities will exist for you then to move on and learn new things and find some of these specialized units, which I think is so cool.
And you have to be given opportunities. I volunteered. I volunteered for a secondment. I volunteered to do this. I knew people who knew me, and I said, I'd like to come work for you. And we made it happen. So that's my biggest advice: is you need to, it's your career. You need to make the most out of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, as women, sometimes we are not great at that. Sometimes we're not great at asking for things or putting ourselves out there, or we self-doubt and we go, "Oh, well, I'm not probably not going to be like good enough for that, or I don't have enough experience for that." Just fucking do it anyways. Put your name in the hat, because you might just surprise yourself. And believe me, there are surprises out there when people say, "Hey, you, I want you." And you're like, "Me? You want me? Little old me? Okay. If you want me, I guess I'll come do it." So yes, I think that's amazing. And teaching at Depot, what a cool experience. I completely agree. Teaching versus mentoring, totally different. And people that try to say that they're the same thing, I'm like, well, then you're either not a good teacher or you're not a good mentor. One of the two, because they are totally different. And I think there's a lot more patience that has to go in to teaching when people don't get it the first time, and you're just like, but this is common sense, and I've showed it to you 5 times, and I really need you to get your shit together and figure this out, right?
And I was being asked to teach things at Depot that I had never done because my time in uniform was so short. I had never taken DNA for a DNA warrant, and here I was, hey guys, this is what you have to do, but give me some surveillance and I can mentor somebody in surveillance, something that I've done a lot of. So it's very different.
Yes, that is really cool. That is really cool. Again, just all the different roles is so cool. Okay, so we're going to put a pause on you. We're going to jump over to Hailey. So Hailey, Special Constable with Saskatoon Police, 5 years in. Tell me your story.
This is great. I'm learning so much about everyone. I'm still like new to my role in SWIP, so it's great to like hear everybody else. But okay, I will talk about me. So I'm 26 years old and I'm in my fifth year. So kind of like I generally find a lot of the people that I surround myself with are like this is something I wanted my whole life. Like, this is really what I knew I always wanted to do. I'm like not that story at all, really. Um, I graduated high school and wanted to run my own restaurant was like originally my goal in life. So I went to school for business right out of high school, and did just like a year-long certificate program through our Polytechnic Institute. Kind of started getting a little bit more into the research and realized like, oh wow, like I really can't make a lot of money in this job, at least not to start, and just was like, it was a bit more of like a pipe dream or like a thing that I might do one day, maybe. But yeah, that was all my experience was just like restaurants. Like I loved the service industry, which now that I see what I do out on the street, it like really translates. But that was really my experience I started my first job when I was 14 years old. I'm like not afraid of hard work. My parents were like, you want a cell phone, you have to pay for it. You want a vehicle, you have to pay for it, like all that. So yeah, started working pretty young and I was in restaurants for like a good, I don't know, the first 8 years of my like working career. I found it to be like a really good way to make money without like the education piece, just kind of while I put those pieces of my life together and figured out what I wanted to do. I saved up some money to go traveling, so I did 3.5 months by myself in Southeast Asia, which I laugh because I'm like I disappeared to like find myself, but that's kind of what it ended up being a little bit. Like just getting a ton of perspective of just being completely out of my comfort zone by myself and really just having to look at my life and figure out what direction I wanted to take it and what my values were. Um, yeah, just what direction I wanted to go. And then that's also when COVID happened. So my 3.5 month trip turned into more like 3 month trip. It was very apocalyptic. I was in like Chiang Mai, Thailand, and there was like hostels were boarding up and like I don't know, all these places. It was very creepy. Like I was just like, oh my God, the world is actually shutting down and I'm in the middle of Asia. Like it's crazy. Um, so had to come back home a little bit early for my traveling, and then I was just like without a job. All my experience again was in restaurants at that point, so like restaurants were not open. Things were, it kind of sounds like there's a commonality here amongst all of us where there's like that timeline just kind of forced you to look in the mirror a little bit of like, okay, now what? Um, so I started having some feelings while I was gone about like really wanting to go back to school. Like my brain just felt bored, is kind of how I would describe it. And I had had some clerical experience in the past, working for like an administrative role within wildfire in Saskatchewan. So I got to be around all these really great like boots on the ground people, but I was stuck in an office role and realized that that like really wasn't for me. I love to be like social and out on the street and dealing with people. So at that point, I just kind of was like, you know, what if I pursued something more like first responding on the front line? So I started an online program for criminal justice policing out of Lethbridge College. I think that's like a pretty common
Mhm.
course that most people will take, which I don't regret doing at all because it allowed me to be in school full time, like from home, during COVID. And then in that time, I was like constantly looking for policing related work to kind of start dipping my toes in that water to see if that was something that interested me. And there was an administrative job within the Saskatoon Police that came up in our central records department. So basically, like file management, a lot of the background, like report writing, warrant filing type work.
Mhm.
And like kind of a full circle moment because I would have never been able to actually get that job had I not done my business certificate like straight out of school. So I kind of looked at it like a bit of a sign from the universe of like, let's just give this a go. I got hired on with Saskatoon Police in that civilian administrative role for a year, and I learned so much of what I needed to know about the report writing and like administrative side of this job, but I still knew that that really wasn't like where my heart lied. Um, and in that time, the alternative response officer program that we have here at Saskatoon Police and is now in Regina as well, kind of came to be. So I was right there during like the grassroots creation of the program. And if you don't know, I can give like a really quick snapshot of it, but we're special constables. So we don't go to the same, like we don't go to depot or police college in the same way that a lot of these women here had done. We do all of our training in-house. So I got to stay home and like live at home and be trained in my actual police service, which I found to be of great benefit because like I had said, I'd already been working there for a year, so I was like comfortable. I had already built a lot of relationships and rapport with people. Um, so that was great. I ended up putting my name in for it. And honestly, when I started in the ARO program versus like where it is now, it's very different. I always say like we were really building the plane as we were flying it, like and we still are. So in terms of like what the program was versus what it is now, I take a lot of pride in being part of that development because a lot of people will use this role as like a transitionary role or like a stepping stone to go to police college and become a patrol member and beyond, which like there's no better relevant experience in my opinion. We have the same arresting authorities for the most part. We carry intermediate weapons. We're out there like on the street dealing with people going to very similar calls as patrol, but there are just some limitations that we operate within. So, anyways, just like super relevant policing experience that people will generally utilize as a stepping stone. However, I've just like really come to dig my heels into it and love it and pursue it as a career because the ceiling in it is still super high. Like we really can still take it in a lot of directions that I've been proud to be part of kind of those ideas and conversations. Like I mean, speaking of women in policing, like the amount of meetings I have where I'm in rooms full of men who have been in this job for way longer than me, who actually have kids my age, where I'm like, they make probably quadruple in a year what I make, and I'm like advocating for ideas and really just kind of helping build this program up is something that I take a ton of pride in. So yeah, I've kind of just really found my thing here. Don't get me wrong, it has so many challenges that I'm sure we can dip into, but like at the end of the day, this is where all of my combination of experience at this point in life has led me. And I'm really just kind of taking it and running with it and like being creative within this role. We just got on bikes this year, so I have my like cool sunglasses and like all my extra kit that I like. I don't know, it's been really fun. Getting to take it that direction. I would love to see us go into like schools one day. There's all kinds of different pathways that I still hope to take in my job. I don't see like staying as a special constable or staying in this rank or unit as a limitation. I just see it as like this untapped market, I guess, of policing that like we really can take in a lot of ways. Anyway, yeah, that's a little bit about my position at this point.
That is so cool though, Hailey, because I was wondering, like special constable, how that played in. If it was like we have like community peace officers here, but they don't have like arresting authorities. Like they can do bylaws and they can do like some like it's probably different for you guys, but like mental health act stuff, things like that they can do. They don't have any kind of like real like arresting authorities. So I was wondering how that kind of married up to our side, but very, very cool. And I love that you went and traveled because that's another big thing that we always talk about on the show is like travel, get some world experience, figure out yourself, figure out who you are, figure out what you want to do, right? Like oftentimes we need to take that time where exactly like you said, you're out of your comfort zone, you're in another country where you don't know anybody and you got to figure shit out. And then once you do, you're like, hey, okay, well, I found my way all the way through Southeast Asia in a pandemic. I can do fucking anything. I can do anything now. So yeah, that's phenomenal. And I really like how you said being the only woman in the room full of men, especially as a young female, because I was the same as you. I was 27 when I got my first promotion into a supervisor's position. And it was me in a room full of men all the time, same thing, trying to advocate while they look at you like you're like their child and they're like, okay, sweetie. And like, I'm small, I'm only 5 feet tall. And so of course, then like that, then they just like pat you on the head and you're like, oh, I will cut you. like, oh, listen to what I'm saying because I'm serious about this. So I understand that challenge as well of being in those rooms and having to still advocate and having to still like really try and put forward your ideas, especially when you know it's a good idea and you know it's what's best for the organization and you know it's going to take it in the right direction, and navigating that. So amazing, absolutely cool. And yeah, one day you can maybe own a restaurant, and then but you have to wait till you have other money, and then you can do it. Because I tell you right now, owning a business, these people out there, they're talking about like, oh, start your own business, like be a millionaire, like have your own schedule. They're fucking lying. Okay, guys, they're fucking lying. I know because I have a business, and it is not easy. It is way fucking harder than working for somebody else. Okay, way harder. Some days I'm like, what am I thinking? Why don't I just go back? I'll just go back to the jail and I'll just work casual, and somebody else can make all the hard decisions. Last but certainly not least, I want to jump over to Shannon. Shannon, Sergeant with Regina Police. Tell me your story.
So for me, for as long as I can remember, I always wanted to be a lawyer. So that was my whole path in life was to go to law school. So when I graduated, I started a pre-law degree here in Regina, and then with the hopes of going whatever law school I got into. And then as that time was drawing near to advance into more, I guess, law specific classes, I kind of had a bit of a moral dilemma and realized I'm more interested in the investigating side of things than having to prosecute or defend with the facts kind of laid out in front of me, or like family law, just nope, not interested. Way too soul crushing. Corporate law, I kind of deemed as probably being a little boring. And so I realized it was more, I guess, the law and the investigations and that kind of side of things that really kind of made me curious. So on a whim, I applied with Regina Police Service, and a matter of months later, I was hired on. And so, and I don't regret it. I still, other than when I see lawyer friends' paychecks, that I'm like, oh, maybe I did the wrong thing. But then I see their student loans, and I'm like, nope, I did the right thing. So that was kind of my path to here. I originally got hired as a special constable here, and at that time, our special constables only worked within our detention unit. So assigned to a 12-hour rotation shift, followed a shift, working in our detention unit, doing release papers, prisoner management, that kind of stuff. I did that for about 6 months and then went to police college. After police college, I did would have been about 5 years on the street, and then got into our vice or sex crime unit. Worked there where I got promoted to corporal, and finished my term there. Then came back to the street, worked for a little while. Where did I go after that? Went to our robbery unit, and then came back to the street, worked in human resources after a bit. And then from human resources, I took a 3-year secondment to the RCMP to teach drug impaired driving investigations. So our drug impaired, or our drug recognition expert program for determining drug impairment. I taught that across Canada and then down in the US for our certifications. So I did that for 3 years, which was probably one of the highlights of my career. I had a lot of fun meeting and networking, and yeah, the people I met, phenomenal. And then I came back and worked on the street for a little bit again, and then a bunch of things over all those years caught up, and I ended up having, we'll call it, some struggles, and went off of work with a post-traumatic stress injury diagnosis. So I was off work for about 8 months, and then came back and did like the slow gradual return to work. And right at the end of that, I got promoted to sergeant. So I know this sounds really counterproductive to a post-traumatic stress injury, but when I came back full time, I took a brief posting in our major crime unit, which I know sounds really silly with post-traumatic injury, but those investigations really didn't trigger me. They weren't part of the trauma. So it was a really good fit. And then after that, I worked in our robbery unit for a a little while. And then from there, I came to this spot that I'm currently in, which is sergeant charge of the traffic safety unit. And so that was kind of my career path, but my big passions are in post-traumatic stress injury awareness and obviously any impaired driving investigation is my passion.
That's phenomenal. Again, every single one of you, so cool and so different. Like, so yes, listeners, if you're listening and you're like, I don't know, should I do it? Like, all four of these women are coming in from completely different backgrounds, completely different things that they did. And like, they're doing it. So you can do it. I love lawyer, same thing. I thought the same. I was like, I did my degree in criminology. Everyone else that was graduating was going on to law school. And I was like, yeah, like I'd be a lawyer. And then I did the same deep dive. I was like, I'm not doing corporate law. That's boring as shit. I'm not doing child and family. I'm not doing like civil. So the only law that I would do that I'm interested in is criminal. And you don't make any money as a crown prosecutor at all, but you do all the work. But the money comes with being like a defense attorney. And I was like, there's no fucking way I'm defending these pieces of shit. That's not happening. So I guess that's not my job. I guess this is not my journey, pulling the pin. And when I told my parents that, my mom was like, what? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing the law school thing. And she's like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I think I'm going to be a police officer. And she was like, oh, for the love of God, no. And I was like, I think so. I think that's what I'm going to do. And then when I started working at the jail, she was like, I thought you were going to go into the police. And I was like, yeah, I have to get some experience. I applied. They told me I'm too young. I need experience. So I'm going to find experience. And she was like, you're going to work in a jail? You were going to be a lawyer. Oh my God. So then I had to deal with that for like a good first year of my career. I was like, it's okay, mom. Everything's going to work out. It's fine. So
yes, much like Whit, I grew up in a farming background and growing up, my dad kind of had two rules. No daughter of his was going to learn to drive a tractor because I wasn't going to be stuck on the farm, and I wasn't going to hold a gun. And he wanted me to go out and do something. If I wanted to return to the farm, so be it, but go out and do something first. And so then, yeah, much like Whitney, when I told them, yeah, I think I'm going to bail on this and go into policing. And my parents are like, you're going to hold a gun? Like, no, you're not being in a profession where you need to have a gun. I'm like, well, not your choice, but thanks for the support. And I mean, now they're loving it and super, super proud. And they were even then, but it was always kind of comical that, my poor dad was a little shocked.
Well, and I think it's really cool too that like same thing within your career, this opportunity opens up to become an educator in this very specialized kind of unit, this drug education unit. And so I think that's a super cool thing. And it give, again, opportunity to travel, opportunity to meet people from all across the country, like things that you don't think are going to pop up when you're like, I'm going to be a police officer. So like that is super cool. And thank you for bravely sharing the fact that you had a post-traumatic stress disorder and that you did have that rough go, because there's a lot, no matter what we do. And I mean, there's so many episodes of this podcast where we've talked about, I had my own personal struggles. I was part of the reason I left the career too, was because I said, very similar to what Whitney said, there's 18 years more of this career and I'm not going to last. I'll be dead. I'll kill myself or I'll be dead. I'm not going to last. I know I'm not going to last. So I'm going to pull the pin. And it's getting better. Like, again, I left in 2019. In the last 6 years, it's come a long way, but we still have a long way to go where we still feel a little stigma in admitting that like, hey, yeah, I pulled the pin because I was going crazy and I had some serious mental issues and I needed to take a break. So thank you for bravely sharing that, because the more we share it and the more people realize that it does happen, no matter how strong you think you are, how tough you think you are, how many years you have in, how much shit you've seen and you can handle, like it happens, guys. It happens and you don't even realize it's going to happen and then it hits you. So thank you for that. I appreciate you for that.
It's no more anything to be embarrassed about than a sprained ankle or a broken arm. I mean, things happen on the job and we get injured, and a mental health injury is no different than that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with admitting and knowing your limitations of, I don't want to further expose myself, or knowing I need to take a different path within the career where I'm not exposed to certain things. And there's absolutely no shame in acknowledging your journey, just like any other injury that our professions expose us to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to circle back now because I want to kind of dive a little bit into kind of like what your day to day looks like, because you guys are all doing such totally different roles and jobs. And then I want to come back to the SWIP stuff because again, I want to save time for that. But so I'm going to jump back to you, Whitney. Break it down for me. What's this integrated unit look like? What's the kind of, and again, obviously you can't be sharing like files and stuff that you're working on, but what would kind of be something that would come along that would potentially be part of this integrated unit that you're working on?
So right now, like our unit consists of an RCMP sergeant, an RCMP corporal, 2 constables with RCMP, and then 2 RPS employees. So myself, and then I have my partner, her name's Katie. And we both start at the same time. Right now, like I think the biggest thing about when it comes to human trafficking, people always immediately think, and this is because of the media, it's like people are coming over in sea cans and there's all these people being shipped. But that is not human trafficking. Human trafficking is as simple as a domestic situation where potentially a male gets a female, manipulates her, and then tells her to go into the sex industry, and then gets her to work and do things that she doesn't want to do, and then takes the money from her. So that's what human trafficking can be, right? So when we look at some of the files that we have, there's 2 different avenues it can take. It can be the sex trafficking side of things, or it can be the labor trafficking, which is what we're seeing a lot now with the immigration coming in, and then people not paying them fairly, or they're here not working maybe on the proper visas. So there's that whole kind of thing, but it gets very messy with that. And they're difficult files because if they're not here legally, then they don't want to come forward as a victim. And we can't treat people the way, like, or not pay them what they're supposed to be paid. And those are our laws in Canada, right? So there's just that whole avenue of things. But a lot of the times that we do, like we're doing so much education on human trafficking, we do a lot of research on our escorts. So making sure that we're reaching out to them, and we call them a wellness check. So we'll go on maybe Leo's list, and we're looking at a lot of the girls that are advertising them. There's certain indicators that we look for, and then we might go out and meet with them. And it's not to get them in any trouble, but it's really just to make sure that they're being safe, that they are in a high risk environment. So it's what kind of males, because it's typically males that are buying sex, like have they had anyone, come across that maybe has been aggressive or hasn't paid them, or, so we really check up on them and we take care of those females. And then of course it's the files that come in. And then we work those files on investigative avenue, or it's, surveillance, or writing warrants, or, that whole side of things when it comes to it. And a lot of the times it comes from our patrol officers that are maybe responding to kidnapping or a sexual assault or a domestic situation. And then they're looking for those indicators for human trafficking. And there's maybe some red flags, or this isn't sitting well. And then they contact us, and we'll go out and maybe having a conversation, because we're not in a uniform. So it's sometimes easier to talk to us than that intimidating uniform.
Yeah, I think that's, because I listen to Dateline all the time because I love that podcast. But every single time, right? Where are they? It's coming from the sex industry, where these women are being, again, trafficked and then taken out and then murdered. And so, yes, you're the precursor to it. If we can stop the trafficking, then we can probably stop the murdering of all these, Indigenous women, these young, vulnerable women. It's definitely something. I think it's been around for forever, right? Trafficking and prostitution has been around for forever. But the fact that we now have dedicated units that are we're working with these people, we're working to make sure that they're safe, we're working to make sure that we can try and provide resources and ways for them to get out of it. I think that is a huge thing that's come a long way in the last kind of, say, 10 years. And then again, like you said, with the immigration, there's so many people that are coming across with, again, promises of, oh, you're going to make this and you're going to make this, and then they're making a third of that, or they're making it, but then they're having to pay the fee, and it's a third of their wage or a quarter of their wage, and they're already only making barely enough to survive. And so then these poor people have come under this premise, and are basically living below poverty level, and there's nothing they can do about it. Because like you said, now when they realize, oh, this is the wrong visa, or this is the wrong, I can't come forward, I can't say anything, because then I have to go back, and I have to go back with less than what I came here with. So yeah, very interesting unit.
I think with this position, like it's such a they're unique investigations, and the aspect where the victims sometimes don't know that they're a victim, right? So it's because they've been manipulated and they're like, no, I want to work because I have to pay this, but it's not right because you're working, and then they're taking all that money. So that's the trafficking side of things, right? And so they don't see themselves as a victim. They might not want to come forward. We know that's happening, but then how do we do our investigation without that victim? Right. So now we're looking at different avenues on how to progress the investigation without that audio video statement, or right. And so we're very victim focused. We don't want any of the people that do come forward and tell their story. We don't want to pressure them into doing things that they don't want to do. We want them to move on their own time. And we really stress that whenever we come across, because it's really our vulnerable, sometimes our youth, like the youngest that usually they start trafficking is 13 years old. So we think about, and it's happening a lot in our Indigenous communities. So, and those are girls, if you think back at our time when we're 13 years old and we're trying to figure ourselves out, and all of a sudden this 28-year-old comes and meets you, and and they take you to a party and maybe get your nails done, and it's like, well, now you have to pay me for those nails, and and then we get you dependent on drugs, and right, and then now it's in that cycle, and it's how do they get out? So like I've had the opportunity to go to Ottawa for courses. Paul Brandt, he's like a huge advocate for human trafficking, which has started up his own foundation called the Madison Sessions. So that's all across Canada. We come together, and so if you're in an airport, I think it's over like 180 places, but you'll see the signs. Bathroom, and it says "Not in my city," and that's the Madison Sessions that I went to back in April. And it's a movement that's happening, and I think it's very powerful, and we need to be more aware of what's happening.
I'm really glad though that you specified, because I literally just came back from the airport like a week ago, and they were there, and I was like, oh, these are very interesting, these stickers. But again, I'm thinking people in sea cans, and so I was like, why are these at the airport? Because like the sea cans are coming through the airport, and if they are, like, I'm not seeing them, but then it was also like, well, maybe I need to be keeping my eyes open. Like maybe there is somebody that's, like being towed along, and you can tell that they're not with, they don't want to be with that person, right? So I really like that we gave that a little bit more education around that, because it is true. And I remember working at the jail, having conversations with young gangsters, and like, well, how'd you get into the gang? Oh, well, like I was hungry, and this, older gangbanger basically bought him lunch, bought him food, bought him at the time it was like a Walkman or a CD, like a Discman. And then, and then it became, well, then it's a phone. Well, then, okay, well, now you owe me. I bought you those $100 sneakers. Now you owe me. And now you're going to go sell drugs for me. And now you're going to go steal from that person. Now you're going to go, because you're little, you're going to break and enter because you can fit through the windows. And like, that's how they got sucked into the gangs. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, holy shit. Like, so these poor kids who are super vulnerable, who just thought that they were getting cool sneaks from like a cool guy in the gang, is now, that's it. He's hooked. And now he can't leave because he owes them, and he can't ever pay them back because he can't get a job. And all he has to do is sell drugs. And so, yeah, that's exactly how it happens. Like, okay, so Laura, I want you to tell me about surveillance. So we got lots of different roles, lots of different things, but talk to me about surveillance. What's kind of the trends right now? And I know you've kind of been out of it for a little bit, but like, what was that like when you were working in it?
Well, working in Toronto was busy. If you can do surveillance in Toronto, you can do it anywhere. I still remember my last shift that I worked in Toronto. I think I filled up my gas tank twice. I mean, we went from Oshawa to Markham, to Mississauga, to downtown Toronto, back to Markham, back to Oshawa, back to like just all over the place. So that was definitely an organized crime file. Trends, surveillance is just an investigational technique. It's something to get more evidence, to get intelligence, to move the investigation forward. So it's just one part of an investigation, not necessarily a trend. One thing is always been out there, they're driving vehicles that aren't registered to them. So that can be difficult. Um, Changing vehicles, just jumping in with somebody. We would always be, okay, are we going with the main target or are we going with the new person? And that was that next piece. And as the road boss, we'd call it, or as the road supervisor, it would be my job to be discussing with the primary investigator saying, okay, what is our goal? What is our objective of this shift? And then as things come up, hey boss, like this is what we saw today. What I know this is not our objective, but we have an opportunity to do this. Should we do this or should we stick with our main objective? And definitely a fluid situation. So some days are very boring. Some days we'd say you wouldn't turn a wheel, you would just sit there, and that's how life goes. Some days we don't leave the house, sometimes they don't leave the house. So it's just the accumulation of the evidence that gets you to where you want to be with an investigation.
Well, and I think the part of it too is like those like surveillance it can be boring, but like every little thing could be the thing, right?
Absolutely.
So like you can't just discount, oh, they're just sitting in the house doing nothing. It's like, okay, well, what food did they order? What, like, who came to the house? Who, like, what else is going on around the house? Is there, because you never know what little clue is going to be the thing that busts it wide open. And it took, just the guy sitting there watching and being like, hey, wait a minute. I've never seen this guy before. They've never had this food delivery, like, those types of things. So I think I'm with you. When you said, what else can you find in the car when you were back doing traffic, right? Like how that links into like, well, what else can you find now? What else? What's the next piece? And what's the next piece? And what's the next piece? Because it all will lead into that big picture, which I think is really cool. So yeah,
Even
surveillance.
Today's garbage day. Well, down the road, maybe we want to do a garbage poll, and we already have that information because somebody saw it. I know for our training, they don't teach you how to write surveillance reports, and a good report is a hill I will die on. So at one point, I actually wrote business rules for surveillance and standardized our surveillance reports. That way, we could all have the same standard. It was a professional product going to court because they don't teach that on the course, but having seen it from the lead investigator, the primary investigator, and reading those reports, and then reading maybe a subpar report that I still had questions on, I was calling that surveillance saying, you said this, but can you give me more detail? Transferred into writing a good detailed report, and you can just learn so much more from that. So I think that's really important. Paint the picture. What did you see? Detail.
The standardization of it too, because like even like we would write reports, right? Because the managers, like everything would filter up to us, and then we would create the one package that would go forward to the minister. And like I would write it differently than my partner and my other partner, there's 4 of us, and we would all write them differently, but they were all the same report. And I was like, we need to standardize this because he's getting mine. The minister's getting mine, he's reading mine. Okay, mine reads like this, and he's getting yours reads like this. We could be writing about the same incident, they sound totally different. So that standardization of that report is key. That is also a hill I will die on, is good report writing, because good report writing can save your ass every single time. And again, it can be the thing that makes or breaks a case, whether it gets charges get laid or charges get dropped. And the worst thing ever is to have done all the work and then have it go to court and the charges get dropped, and you're just like, no. No.
And with my current team in North Battleford here, I have double the service that most of them do on my team. And even though I'm new again to general duty policing, I bring all that other experience with me. And I'm trying to teach them that you just dig a little bit more, make those links, write about what they were wearing, who they were with, link those associates. If I have questions as a supervisor, the Crown's going to have questions. So if I send it back and say, I need more detail, just learn to write with more detail and mentor them, develop them that way, and make them better report writers and get them those opportunities to progress in their career. Because I know when I read somebody else's reports, I'm like, hey, they're good. They're a good report writer. Or like, oh, I have so many questions, but this person's report kind of thing. So it takes time though. It takes time, and it takes somebody saying you could develop it by doing this or add a bit more about this. So it's a constant cycle of learning for sure.
Yeah. Okay, Hailey, I'm going to jump to you. We got cool sunglasses. We got all new gear. I want to know about the bike unit. Tell me what we do on the bike unit.
Well, okay, so it's no different than what I would do if I was patrolling on foot, but I can kind of just explain like what our job role is and then where the bikes come into play. So we are centralized to like the downtown, Riversdale, and Fairhaven districts of our city, which if you're not familiar with Saskatoon, basically those are kind of our hubs for most of our social disorder calls. And they're also the mostly like condensed population full of vulnerable people. A lot of our social resources are in those areas of our city. So those are my three kind of districts. Um, I have basically I start my day and like depending on what assignment I'm on, what district of the city I'm assigned to, um, basically just hit the street. We have police cars, we have bikes, and then those are kind of our two modes of transportation. Um, if I was in a car, I would basically drive my car to my district and spend 80% of my day for the most part on foot doing like beat patrol, um, a lot of community policing kind of deriving from our section. So tons of engagement with the community, a little bit of like a political poker chip in the sense of like, look at all these officers that are condensed in our like areas of our city that are the most problematic. So there's that piece too, just tons of rapport building. I could probably name 100 people on the street that are kind of our like regulars by like first and last name, know a lot about their families, their kind of stories I've come to learn over the years. We deal, yeah, a ton with like all the business owners. So we work 4 10-hour shifts during the week. So we're kind of following business hours for the most part. So 8 to 6. So we're kind of there in the morning when people are getting to work, and we're there after their shift is over to kind of make sure that things are okay while they walk to their vehicles and everything like that. Um, so I don't work nights, I don't work weekends, and I don't work holidays. So in terms of being a police officer, I know everyone else here is probably like, screw you. But it's pretty lucky in that regard. We're really lucky that way. But yeah, I would honestly say in terms of what my day-to-day role looks like, it's tons of community engagement, um, a lot of community policing. It's kind of like social worker in uniform in a sense too. Like it's kind of enforcement if necessary, but not necessarily enforcement. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
the term I like to coin. So if the biggest factor of why you are screaming and yelling in the street is that you just really haven't slept well for the last couple days, we have tons of connections with shelters or detox facilities. If you're really just hungry and that's why you almost punched Buddy in the face, like let's just get you to Friendship Inn or our food resource in the city, that type of thing. So just kind of basically making sure that everyone's basic necessities in a day are met. Um, Tons of welfare check calls, lots of like public intoxication calls, disturbances, those types of things that might not necessarily require an armed member.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of like my bread and butter throughout the day. But on a bike, it's really no different. It's just basically a different way of getting from point A to point B. This is a new thing that we just introduced this summer. So we have 3 officers in our section. There's 20 of us in our unit. 3 of us got bikes. So everyone else like chomping at the bit. Hopefully we'll be able to get more funding in future summers so that that's possible. But it's great. It's just like a completely different way of being out there, and like you can just cover so much more ground. And I will say that like a huge thing for our unit would just be that we're out there. Like regardless of how many, arrests or how many outreach calls you do in a day, the vast majority of the time, us just simply being out on the street deters a ton of the crime that we are
Mm-hmm.
experiencing, at least during business hours. It may change on like the weekends and at night, so I'm sure our shifting will change at some point in time. But yeah, that's really like my favorite part about being on a bike is just like the exercise. Like I'm really kind of just working out for 10 hours a day, which is crazy. I've never been so sore and hungry in my life. And then yeah, just being able to cover so much ground and connect with everybody out there is really our biggest role in the day.
I love that. I really like that there is that emphasis on like resource like support, and it's not necessarily the enforcement side of things. It's the let's deal with the human being that's in front of us and let's help them the best we can, because that's usually why we've all went into this role, is because we want to help people. We want to make where we live better. And so I think that that's really interesting that that is like part of that work is really just what do you need? How can we help you get it? And then can you stop being a jackass in the middle of the street? That would be wonderful. Thank you very much. Clearly, please move on. So yes.
For sure. And just like I think stopping things before they turn into 911 calls is a huge part of what we're doing out there as well. Like, um, obviously I have tons of respect for patrol, but of course it's like dispatch calls and they're just like call to call to call to call and kind of clearing the queue all day of just the different things we have going on in the city. Whereas we are dispatchable, like we can be dispatched, but it's a lot more of a rarity. So really we're just kind of stopping things from evolving to that point, which I think really helps. Yeah, it's like in the name of like an alternative response, but also um, it's really just kind of helping patrol in that regard so that they're able to attend those more higher level calls that might require more of the training and expertise and use of force or different things like that too. So.
Okay, and then last but not least, Shannon, I want you to tell me all about drug education for impaired drivers. So I'm assuming this is because we legalized marijuana. This is where it all came from, on top of people just being idiots and drinking and driving. But talk to me about this. What should we be looking for? Maybe you can share some quick tips because some of our listeners are peace officers and police officers. But share me this education.
Yeah, so basically, it's been around. I took my training back in 2006, is when I became a drug recognition expert evaluator. The terms are used kind of interchangeably, but so it's been around for quite a while. And then in 2008, I believe it was, we got criminal code demand for submitting to the evaluation. Prior to that, it was kind of, hey, can you help us out here and help us prove that you're impaired? And so that was very exciting for us. And then I think it was 2018, if my memory is correct, there was a decision out of the Supreme Court of Canada called the Bingley decision, which basically reviewed our training to take the course or to be successful in the course and said, by virtue of our training, we are deemed court experts without a voir dire. So that was super exciting. And then along came legalization. And then we became very, very busy. And so basically what the program is, it's a total of 3 weeks course. 2 weeks are in classroom, very intensive course where members are taught. It's a 12-step systematic standardized process that we go through. It includes, for anyone out there that's a standardized field sobriety test trained or have watched anything online, it's the walk the line, stand on one leg, those kind of tests. And then in the drug recognition portfolio, we have 2 extra ones. And so we do some coordination testing just on the premise that if we're asking you to walk in a particular manner down a straight line and turn around and come back, a sober person will have struggles. I mean, everyone has some struggles with balance, but a sober person should be able to complete it relatively easily. As soon as you're impaired, just like driving, that multitasking, I mean, if we're asking you to take 9 steps, walk heel to toe, watch your feet and keep your arms at your sides and don't stop until you've completed, it's basically 5 things. When we look at the task of driving, you're doing way more than 5 things simultaneously. So it's basically just testing your ability to multitask and remember, and which driving requires a lot of. And then there's also blood pressure that's taken, pulse, temperature, pupil size in room light, direct light, and near total darkness. And then based on the whole totality of those 12 steps, that gives us the information we need to say, number one, yes, you are impaired or you're not, or perhaps it's a medical issue going on where things just aren't adding up to what we would normally see with a drug. And we have had DREs across the country that have done evaluations on people and ended up sending them to the hospital because it doesn't make sense. And they've found brain tumors. And so we've had some where it doesn't make sense. They send them to the hospital and they find out they're post-stroke. They've recently had a stroke and that's what's causing the impairment that the officer is seeing. So it's not always drug. Mm-hmm. And so the officers are trained to weed out some of those things that are like, this doesn't make sense to my training. And then also encompassing with that is what we're seeing leads us to believe if it's one of the 7 drug categories. So cannabis, hallucinogens, stimulants, narcotics, dissociative anesthetics like ketamine or PCP, inhalants, kind of all of those different categories that we would look at. And then we're able to say, yes, you are impaired, and it is, say, a depressant and a stimulant that is causing that impairment. And so then through those 2 weeks, that's kind of what the students learn. And then the last week, we used to go to Phoenix or Jacksonville, Florida, to do our certification there on, well, I wouldn't want to say they're drug impaired, but they're recent drug consumption people who volunteer to come in and help us out. And we've since moved to Vancouver, which is where we do it now. It's done strictly on a volunteer basis. If they want to come in and help us out, which a lot of them do because they recognize the addiction and want to help out kind of those maybe coming after them. And so they'll come in, volunteer, and our students have to do a number of evaluations on them and determine what drug category they're on. And then that's confirmed by a urine sample from the subject. And then a very lengthy, commonly about 8-hour long exam follows that. And if they pass all of that, then they're good to hit the street and go out and catch some impaired drivers by drug.
Wow. I had no idea it was that in depth. That's amazing. Because again, we talked about, like Laura was saying, what goes to court, the reports, like if we cannot prove without a reasonable doubt that this person was impaired by this, like they're getting off on that stuff. And so I'm really impressed to hear that it is that in depth and that much knowledge goes into it. Because yeah, I think the rise of social media has, shown the funniest one I'm sure you've all seen is like the cowboy that can do the whole high kick, like kick, ball change, step. Oh no, I just been drinking. And I was like, damn, bud, you were doing so good though. That was highly entertaining. So, but that's good to hear that there's like that whole level and that they have to identify like it's a depressant and it's an amphetamine. Like that's very impressive because you kind of forget about like prescription drugs, like the abuse of prescription drugs. You always think like impaired drivers, like, oh, they're drunk or they've been smoking weed or meth, something, but not like, oh, they've taken way more Xanax than they should have. And then they decided they needed to drive and like how impaired that would be. So yeah, that's really interesting. Huh. Okay. Well, I want to jump to SWIPs because I know we're running short on time and you guys have just been so generous with me asking all these questions, but tell me about Saskatchewan Women in Policing. So I'm assuming each of you has a different role within the organization. So I know Whitney is the president. So I'm going to let Whitney take it away. Tell me about this. Tell me what you guys do. And then maybe if we've got time, we can talk about kind of everybody's individual role.
So SWIP, I think, has been around for about 8 years, maybe a little bit longer. I don't think any of our founding members, like board members, are currently on the board today. But SWIP was founded to support women in our law enforcement agencies to support them with mentorship and leadership into those roles. Because when we look at this as organizations, and Hailey touched base on it, Nikki, you touched base on it, when we go into these rooms, we're often the only female. And especially as we get into higher ranks, Shannon, you can probably speak to this as well. You're sitting in a room and you might be the only female sergeant, or when you get into a role of a superintendent or you're an inspector, well, majority of them are males. And that happens in every organization. So what SWIP was founded on was to really support all of the females in this role through their careers and give them the mentorship, the training, the development, and the opportunities in order to step up and come into those leadership roles. I
freaking love it because I wish that this had existed when I was a young female moving up, because all I had to rely on was there a female that did it before me? No. Okay. Well, I guess I'm forging the way and I better figure it out and not fuck it up because these women come behind me. If I screw this up, then that's it. They've given one woman one shot. And if I screw it up, we're screwed. And so I would have loved somebody to say to me, hey, I'm not even in that same organization, but I've been through the same situation as you. And this is what I did in that situation, or this is how you can approach that challenging conversation, or whatever you do, don't do this because it's going to make it worse, because that would have been so helpful, like throughout my entire career. It's amazing. And so is there like do you apply to be part of SWIP, or is it just like if you're a woman in policing, you are just automatically a member? How does that work?
Yeah, so we do have a website where people can go on and they can become memberships for our like Saskatchewan Women in Policing. I think the membership a year is $25, so it's relatively cheap. With that membership, like we hold conferences. We have lately this year we've had probably like monthly webinars or in-person events to support with networking. A lot of them are for that leadership development on the International Women's Day. We had some of our main leaders within our organization sit down and do a talk and just answer questions, kind of like what we're doing today, and talk about their story and how they got into their leadership roles. And I think that's just really great for us young officers. It's open not only to females, because sometimes we get the pushback from the males, and they're like, why do you guys have your own foundation? It's like, well, you guys can set up your own as well, but you're more than welcome to come and listen and hear and learn, because again, it's still supporting. Like, lots of them are married, lots of them have daughters, you have a mother, so it's support these females in these roles to hear about the challenges that we have, but also it's a development opportunity for you as well. So so when those guys come at me and they're saying those things, I kind of push back a little bit, and I can be super passionate. And I always try to encourage them to get involved, hear what it's about, come out and support us.
Yes, it's totally true. And I always try, like, because everyone says, oh, is your podcast, you just bash guys all the time on your podcast? I was like, we don't bash guys on this podcast, because I've worked with some phenomenal men who have been absolute allies, who have pulled me along and lifted me up and put me into positions, given me a shot when nobody else would give me a shot because I was a girl. So I will never say, that it's bad to have men involved in it. But I agree. I think it's very educational to them to see and to hear what we talk about, because I've even had guys that have listened to the podcast that I worked with for years call me up after listening to one of the episodes and be like, did that really happen to you, Nikki? And I'm like, yeah. Like, well, how come you didn't tell us about it? I said, well, because I'm not going to come down to the boardroom. I've already cried. I've already pulled my fucking big girl panties back up and come down. I'm not going to come down and be whining and crying to you. I just come down with a brave face on and go about my day. They're like, but oh my God, we would have like stood up for you if we would have known. And and it's like, okay, well, yeah, like this shit does happen. These comments are made. These assumptions are given. You are told you're too passionate. You are told you're too emotional. You are asked if your hormones are regulated today, right? Like, that happens. And so when they see that and they actually are like, what? It's like, yeah. And by the way, guaranteed your daughter at her new job is going through it too. So when you go home tonight, ask her how her day at work was, because I guarantee she's going through it right now. And they come back to work the next day and be like, oh, you were right. You were right. Somebody was being mean to her and they said these things. And I'm like, because it happens. So I love the fact that, yeah, bring them along.
Piece too, Nikki, is like, I've had great leaders as males. Like I said, my husband, super supportive of them, lots of great role models. And you know what? And what got me involved in SWIP, well, I had some senior mentorships come down to me and say, get involved in this. But at the same sense, when I started at RPS, there is females that weren't very nice to me. And you know what? And I don't want that experience to happen to any other new recruit as well. So I try to do my best to support them. We don't have to like everyone, but you know what? We're in a professional environment and we're here all to support each other, because we all are faced with different challenges on a daily basis.
Okay, real quick, because I'm taking up your time and I know it's been a busy day, but if you want to just quickly throw at me like why you got involved with SWIP and what your role is. So I'm just going to jump to Hailey real quick, because she's the next one.
Yeah, I got involved with SWIP a few months ago. So I'm the special events director. There have yet to be any special events that I have directed, but I am hoping that that will really take off as I learn a little bit more about my role. The biggest reason I got involved was Tanya Gresty. She's our superintendent here at Saskatoon Police. I believe she was like one of the founding kind of core members of this organization, and she has been just so integral to my junior development as an officer. She really encouraged me to get involved. I'm really big on like saying yes to everything and just really wanting to have my hands in so many buckets. I'm learning that that's not sustainable. So if you're listening to this podcast, don't do that. Learn from my mistakes. But no, I got involved just basically because a lot of what Whitney was just saying really resonates with me. Like, you know, we all know what it feels like to have really supportive people around us, whether that be male or female. We also know what it feels like when we don't. And I just really wanted to surround myself with like-minded women who kind of just really had each other's best interest in mind. Yeah, so I'm really hoping to utilize this organization in that way as I learn and grow a little bit more in my role and get more comfortable with that.
Very good. I like it. Special events director. That means you get to plan fun things. That's a great position.
Yes.
Great position to get your feet wet in. I love it. Okay, Shannon, what about you?
So I am the awards director, and I just came into this role. This is my first year. Basically, I've been a member of SWIP for a number of years. I've been super lucky and had some really, really great female mentors throughout my career. Actually, when I got promoted to sergeant, I received an email from the outgoing member who was retiring that would make room for mine, who said to me in the email that basically she knew she was ready to retire when she saw that another strong female was going to benefit from that retirement, and it stuck with me, and I hope that I do my career and do her service in filling her shoes. She was a phenomenal leader. And so when the SWIP emails came out saying, nominate people for boards or nominate yourself, I didn't really think that I had maybe the time. Much like Hailey, I like to say yes to everything. And so I didn't step forward at that time. And then an email came out shortly after basically saying, these are the new board members, congratulate them. And it said awards director vacant. And I looked at it and said, no, that's not going to happen. We need someone that is dedicated and committing to acknowledging and celebrating women's accomplishments, both sworn, civilian, across all law enforcement agencies that are represented on SWIP. So I reached out to the president at the time and said, I'm interested, whether it be a 1-year fill-in, whether it be a term, I don't care, but this can't sit vacant. It deserves someone's attention because, like I said, women, our contributions need to be celebrated. And so that's how I got it. That's how I got involved. I have been loving it ever since. It's such a great organization to work with, and we've had a lot of turnover in the board of directors and some great ideas, and moving. Whit does a phenomenal job, and all the women of our monthly webinars, and just really putting us out there, which is phenomenal to be a part of, just to watch it grow and continue on.
I think it's nice too because it's outside of your work, but it's still related to your work, right? So it's not like, oh God, here's another work meeting that I have to go to where we have to talk about the work that I'm doing. This is like, we're talking about the work that we're doing, but we're talking about it in a totally different context. And we're talking about with women that aren't in the same building, agency, city as I am. And so those common threads come out and those, oh, this is happening with you guys. Oh my God, it's happening with us too. Oh, wow. Okay. And then you get that networking, you get that sharing of knowledge without even it being like a formal thing. It just evolves naturally, which is amazing. Okay, and Laura, how about you?
So I'm the director of promotions. I came to it because I was fairly new to Saskatchewan. I used to belong to Atlantic Women in Law Enforcement, Ontario Women in Law Enforcement when I was there, went to their conferences and just saw the amazing work that they did. I was on a board of directors for an equestrian group that I was involved with in Ontario, and one of my very good friends out here in Saskatchewan nominated me to put my name forward for this role, and I have found that I have learned the hard way a lot of times, and if I can help somebody not have to learn the hard way. So I am passionate about mentoring and development in that respect. So this was just a perfect fit to join this group of women and promoting that mentorship and leadership aspect and learning from each other and networking. So I was super happy to be nominated and to get the spot and try to jump in.
You guys, like I said, I think every single one of you is well suited to the positions that you picked up. Like just from just the vibes that I get and like the what your skill sets are and where your passions and stuff lie. I think you guys are all well suited to that. So that's amazing. Okay, well, I want to wrap us up because I know we're definitely running long on this one, but I just want to wrap up. I want you guys to just give me your favorite food or snack while you're on shift, because this is a question I ask all my podcast guests and it always gets good, funny answers. So I'm gonna start with you, Whitney. Favorite food or snack when you're on shift?
The real fruit gummies.
Yes. Okay, I like it. All right, Hailey, what's yours?
Oh God, I don't know. So many. I would just say like any of the cafes that we have in our district, they're so good. Like I need an afternoon coffee to keep going. So I don't know if that counts, but any of the like iced coffee, yeah, that keeps me going.
Totally does. Coffee keeps the world going. Okay, Shannon, what about you?
Probably a tie between popcorn or Sour Patch.
Yes, yes. Okay, good. The Sour Patch Kids have been making a run in this last season. There's been lots of people that have been liking the Sour Patch Kids. So, okay. And Laura, what about you?
Definitely coffee and energy drinks. Yeah, I like my liquid meals.
Yep. Yeah, they keep you going. They keep you going. Well, ladies, this has been an absolute treat. Again, thank you so much for sharing all of the amazing information, not only on like the work you do, how you got into this, like your backgrounds, the specialty units and things that you're part of, but all of the great work that Saskatchewan Women in Policing is doing. I'll be adding it all to the show notes. So if you are in Saskatchewan, you're interested in joining this organization, you want to learn more about their events, you want to learn more about, the awards and things like that, it'll all be in the show notes. You can definitely reach out to me and I will throw up their contact information as well. So you can reach out to Whitney or to whoever your membership director is and get that information. But thank you, ladies. It's been a treat. I hope you all have amazing rest of your day. I hope you enjoy what you're doing. Keep doing the amazing work you're doing because you're killing it out there.
Thanks so much, Sabrina.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, listening, giving me your time, your energy, and your attention. I completely appreciate it. Make sure you check out our next episode with another badass female first responder anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at bluelinefitnesstesting.com. I hope you stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and watch your six. Blue Line Fitness Testing is a premier law enforcement fitness testing and training center based in Edmonton. Specializing in helping individuals prepare for the physical demands of a career in law enforcement, we offer comprehensive fitness evaluations, specialized training programs, and classes tailored to meet the unique needs of our clients. Our facility hosts a range of classes and are committed to fostering a supportive and empowering environment where clients can achieve their fitness goals. Our team includes experienced trainers who bring specialized expertise in law enforcement, self-defense, personal training, and rehabilitation. We engage through our community through challenges, events, and our podcast, and we are dedicated to helping individuals succeed in their fitness journeys and career aspirations in law enforcement. Are you looking to get started with your career? Come see Blue Line Fitness Testing, and we'll get you there.